Zombieland Double Tap is directed by Ruben Fletcher and is the longly anticipated sequel to the original 2009 Zombieland movie. This movie stars Jesse Eisenberg, Woody Harrelson, Emma Stone, and Abigail Breslin once again, as we follow their adventures many years after they first encountered each other in the first movie. In this movie, Little Rock escaped with a guy she really liked, so her crew tries to get her back, all the while facing the undead and meeting new people along the way. Honestly, this movie should have been released 8 years ago, like around about then, because at least back then it would feel welcomed, it would feel fresh, you know? But now, since we have so many zombie-oriented movies, TV shows, and games, this movie kind of feels old. Granted, I didn't see the original movie back in 2009, I saw it 5 years later. That still doesn't change the fact that the original movie, released in 2009, it felt very new. That's not to say that I didn't like this movie. I actually really enjoyed it because it stayed true to the intents of the first movie. It was funny, it had some badass moments, and it's a movie not to take so seriously. The thing I really loved about the first movie was how it was a character movie and didn't focus on the zombies all of the time, which is great, you know, you need that kind of downtime. Well, this movie is quite similar in terms of that aspect as well. And this movie is going to go the way that most people will expect it to go. The performances of everyone in the lead cast were great, and they had the same charm that they had in the first movie, even though that was 10 years ago. One thing I was particularly worried about, like, coming into this movie after I watched the trailer, was that some of the scenes might have tried too hard to be funny that it would end up being kind of cringy. But now, like, after having watched the movie, I can say that it's probably 50-50. Okay, maybe 70-30. Yes, this movie had a lot of funny and surprisingly hilarious scenes, but some of them were on the verge of being just a little bit too much. Because if I remember correctly, in the first Zombieland movie, like, all the scenes that were funny, and there weren't really any very extremely cringeworthy scenes. And in this movie, quite similar to the first one as well, it just felt like the characters were going from place to place, and it would be very predictable when a scene was going to start and when it was going to end. They also added some new characters into the mix, which honestly, I feel like they didn't need to be there, but they were there just to add variety, to make it different than the first movie. Not to say that there's anything wrong with that, or that I didn't like it, that's just how it felt. Some of those characters were pretty cool, and they actually grew on me over time. Now, I could completely understand if somebody told me that they just flat out didn't like the movie, because you can nitpick the shit out of this movie. How it's very unrealistic, how it always favors the protagonist, but at the end of the day, this isn't a movie to take too seriously. This is the perfect popcorn flick where you just want to lay back with your friends, chill, and just have a fun time. But did they really need to make a second movie? That is the question. If they had released this movie 2 or 3 years after the first one, then sure, fine. But, you know, I read the reason why it took them so long was because of the script. They went through tons of scripts and ideas before settling on one that they thought was good enough to share with the audience. They wanted to produce something great, not mediocre. But 10 years later, I feel like this movie didn't really need to happen. It was more for nostalgia's sake, because I still feel like the first movie was better. But that's completely fine. I still thoroughly enjoyed this movie. It was different than the first movie, while also staying true to the first movie. Ultimately, I feel like this movie will give you a good time regardless of who you are. It's definitely not perfect or mind-blowing in any way, but I'm sure that you'll feel entertained for the majority of the movie. I'm going to give Zombieland Double Tap a B. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Have you seen Zombieland Double Tap? What did you think about it? Please leave a comment on your thoughts below. Like the video if you liked it, and drop a sub to help the channel out. Also, feel free to check out my previous video. Until next time.